Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Picture. My name is Scott Morgan of the Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to have Candy Ebley on tonight,
Good to be here, Scott.
and Melfar Jr., my superstar running back. Glad to have him back
Hey,
in the house.
it's great to be here. How's everybody doing today?
I'm doing all right. And last but not least, Mr. Sparty, Tom Shanahan, the author of a couple of books, and obviously master of college football and some of the pro football stuff we throw at this guy. So he's doing, and he comes on the Sports Exchange from time to time and other things as well. I'm working to try to get Tommy on the Motor City Mad Mouse show, but that's something we're going to be working on the next few weeks for now. So we like to move Tommy around so we get his book in different time spots at different times. So Tommy is the best and a guy I've known for a while, and I have two great friends on here with Mel and Tommy. Could be more delighted to have you two guys. So with that said, let's get to it. Unfortunately, recently in the NFL lost a great one, and obviously it stings in Washington. As former Washington Redskins quarterback Sonny Jurgensen III has passed away, and that was around early February. We're getting to it now because obviously there's been a lot of stuff with the combine. But let me go over the statement from the family of Sonny Jurgensen III. It is profound sadness that we share the passing of our husband, father, and grandfather, Sonny Jurgensen. We are enormously proud of his amazing life and accomplishments on the field, marked not only by a golden arm, but a fearless spirit and intellect that earned him a place among the legends of Canton. We're in Canton. But to those of us who knew him beyond the stadium lights, he was steady, humorous, and deeply loving heart of our family. He lived with deep appreciation for the teammates, colleagues, friends he met along the way. While he has taken his final snap, his legacy will remain in the indelible part of the city that he lived or loved and the family he built. We are comforted by the knowledge that he brought joy to so many. This weekend, as we enjoy the game that he loved so much, join us and raise glass and share the story and a smile as we celebrate the extraordinary life of a man who was to us the greatest of all time, number 9, Sonny Jurgensen. Well, hey, hi, Daniel. Good to have you on. Tommy, some thoughts about Sonny Jurgensen.
Yeah, he was the face of Washington's franchise for a long time. Great player. I saw some highlights of him, I think probably about the time that he passed on Twitter. And he threw some incredible passes, including ones you wouldn't think he was that athletic to make. A Patrick Mahomes-like pass behind his back when he had the pass rush coming to a guy out on the left side, like a screen pass, but he threw it behind his back. It was a pretty amazing play. And Sonny Jurgensen was from Duke in North Carolina, started out in Philadelphia, and then made a trade with Washington for Norm Snead. That turned out to be a bad trade. But the funny thing I always thought about Sonny Jurgensen was he was the radio analyst for Redskins football, but he didn't like to do interviews. You know,
Really?
when you're a quarterback and you're the face of the team and you're on the radio, you're part of the PR of the franchise, but he didn't like to do interviews. And I remember when I covered the Super Bowl, one of the years that Washington came to San Diego and they played Denver. They routed Denver. That was a Doug Williams game. And they came into town. And there's Sonny Jurgensen in the back. And I said, I'll get a quote from him, about Doug Williams and everything. And he said he didn't want to do any interviews. And I thought it was strange, but then I found out later that's always is.
Okay.
So I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah,
Obviously a great player and an NFL legend.
I'll turn over to Mel. What do you think?
Yeah, obviously, I didn't get the opportunity to watch him play. I don't believe. I think he was a little bit before my time, but being a person who was a football kind of a nerd, you heard of him, you know the stories about him, what he meant to him. Obviously, you could not, talk about the history of the NFL without mentioning his name, and that says a lot about him as a player, the type of player that he was. Um, you know, I, obviously, the brotherhood has lost a sibling. God's gained God and another angel. Um, but yeah, life well lived and job well done.
Candy?
He was born August 23rd. He was born in Wilmington, North Carolina. He obviously, played for Duke. He was drafted 4th round, the 43rd overall pick. He had passing yards was 32,224. He had ended up with a passer rating of 82.6. The one thing that I noted when I did research is Vince Lombardi told Pat Pepler of the Green Bay Packers head office that if we would have had Sonny Jurgensen in Green Bay, we'd never have lost a game. I just thought that spoke highly of him, for Vince Lombardi to talk that highly of him. So yes, after he retired with the Redskins playing, then he began another career as a color commentator, initially with CBS, and then he later worked with the Hall of Fame linebacker Sam Huff, and they continued to cover Washington Redskins on radio. So, and he even did some nonprofit military events as well.
Okay. So what do you want to add to that other than your research?
Well, I mean, obviously, I never watched him play. He played. He played in 1957 to 63 with the Eagles and 64 to 74 with the Washington Redskins. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, 5-time NFL passing yards leader in 61, 62, 66, 67, and 69. So that's pretty important. The Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Fame, Washington Redskins Ring of Fame. Washington Redskins retired his number, and then the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well.
Yeah, well, the bottom line is he played for the legendary George Allen, the guy who obviously coached in the Over the Hill Gang, and between him and Billy Kilmer, that was a great 1-2 punch at quarterback, and obviously they were involved with Super Bowl. So yeah, Sonny Jurgensen's a guy that'll definitely be missed, and the fact that he broadcasting, I remember hearing him on the air, he's actually pretty good. I'm a little surprised, Tommy, by the story that you told me he didn't grant interviews, but what can you say? It happens. But rest in peace, Sonny, nonetheless. All right.
And he was also coached by Vince Lombardi. And
Vince Lombardi coaches him in Washington after he left Green Bay.
He did, and he actually said that Lombardi was his favorite coach.
Well, good. Well, sure, he probably learned a lot about life and football at the same time. A few hellos out there, Chilla Pup. I can't pronounce it, but put them up there, and hello to both of y'all that are in the chat room. Can't pronounce it, but we can certainly put you up and acknowledge you on screen. All right, with that said, we'll talk about the fact that there are some NFL rumors out there that the Cardinals have been linked to Raiders with Geno Smith as a potential addition to the quarterback room. All right, well, you know what? The Cardinals are looking for Kyler Murray's successor. We'll definitely get into Kyler Murray another day, but let's focus on Geno Smith. And he bombed on one end of the desert. Will he bomb on the other, Tommy?
Well, he gets away from Chip Kelly, so maybe that'll help. But
Yeah.
he's kind of getting at the end of the line here. That was a bad year in Las Vegas. I don't know if he has anything left in him. The Vikings also are talking about picking him up. So
Right.
if Kevin O'Connell likes him, maybe he does still have some miles left on his tread. But that was a pretty discouraging year in Las Vegas, pretty condemning year that he'll have to bounce back from.
Yeah, that was bad. I mean, I realized Pete Carroll, he just could not get the success out of him there. Mel.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad year all the way around for everybody and for the franchise and for Pete Carroll. He ended up losing his job. They thought that he was going to be able to come in there and turn things around there, but that didn't work out.
Right.
Obviously, a lot of it has to do with the quarterback play, and Geno didn't play very well.
Right.
he wanted out of Seattle, or he wanted more money than Seattle was willing to give him. He kind of talked his way out of that situation. Pete Carroll ended up picking them up. They had some success there in Seattle when he was there before. And it looks like Seattle probably made the right moves, and Gino possibly made a mistake. But he'll have another opportunity at it. Will he have an opportunity as a starter? I don't know. There's a lot of teams out there that do need a quarterback, or at least need to have some veteran leadership in the event something goes awry with the young starter. Kind of like with Indianapolis experience this year with Daniel Jones and Trent, or excuse me, not Trent Richard, but Richardson, the quarterback. So we'll just have to see. But I mean, I think there's some opportunities for him. He should get an opportunity. You want to have somebody. I mean, I think Minnesota would be a good place for him because they have an opportunity to go in there and compete, push the guy, the young kid McCarthy that ended up costing the general manager his job. But I think competition at that position, just like every other position, is paramount in building a solid football team.
Candy.
Yeah, Gino, I don't. Where are you gonna land, Gino? He was born in Miramar, Florida, so he's from down here. He's played with the Jets, the Giants, the Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Raiders.
Right.
He did win NFL Comeback Player of the Year back in 2022, and he made the Pro Bowl in 22 and 23. But obviously, these last couple of years, he hasn't been himself or had the same opportunities. He hasn't had the same team around him too, and that makes a difference.
Right.
So far in his career, he has passed for 22,168 yards. So where he will end up is anybody's guess. I could see a lot of these. I don't know that he's going to be a number one, but I could see some of these teams that need a fairly serviceable number two try and go after him. Now, whether he will be happy with that or settle for that will remain to be seen. But I can see that there's a lot of teams that need it.
Definitely a tough year. Obviously, you need some quarterbacks. I think Geno Smith is just a victim of a bad system and a dysfunctional situation with the Raiders. I hope he does bounce back. It's not like it took a dump bell when you were with the Seattle Seahawks and went to the Raiders and all went south. Something had to disconnect, and we saw that the coaching situation unraveled pretty quick. All right, well, Ohio is going to allow NIL at high school level schools, and they voted 447 to 121 of allowing NIL with 247 abstaining. Ohio is the 45th state to allow NIL in high school. Tommy, your thoughts about this?
It's not surprising. It's the way of the world now. If they hadn't allowed it, some athlete or parent or family would have sued to gotten the right, because that's what happened here in North Carolina. There's a quarterback named Faison Brandon at Greensboro Grimsley. He won back-to-back state titles, 5-star quarterback. I'm not sure if he was a quarterback since his freshman year, but I know he was since his sophomore year. And when he tried to get some NIL money his junior year, North Carolina's High School Sports Athletic Association ruled against it. The family sued. They won the case. His senior year, he made $1.2 million as a high school kid in NIL endorsements. And so it's going to happen everywhere, kind of like challenging the NCAA. The NCAA kind of has backed down on a lot of things because they know they're going to lose court cases. I'm sure Ohio looked at it and saw they were going to lose court cases. Maybe even they're worried about losing athletes going to different states where they could get NIL money. But Faison Brandon is the cover boy for that, poster boy, $1.2 million while he's a senior in high school playing football. And the other thing about that story, that this is a little bit unrelated. I don't know why Tennessee was pursuing Joey Aguilar to get an extra year of eligibility when they've got a guy like Faison Brandon coming in as their top recruit. Who's Joey Aguilar? He's I want to see him develop the freshman in their other quarterbacks instead of keeping a guy around for 6 years.
No, I agree with you. That's a long time. Mel?
Well, I mean, I think the reason why they want to keep Joey Aguilar is to give the kid a chance to develop. I guess to give him a year to watch a guy that's been around not that program, but been in college football for a while, and show him how to be not a professional, but be a college football player. But I just don't know where this is going. This NIL stuff. I mean, you got NIL, and the next thing you know, we're going to be talking about NIL in middle school, and then you're going to be talking about NIL in elementary school. I just don't know where is this going to stop. I don't understand it. I remember in high school, my dad used to give me money. He used to give me $50 a touchdown and $1 for every yard, and that was great, man. I thought that was fantastic. But I mean, $1 million in high school, I don't understand. And then you're not giving these kids any education, any financial education. So I think they're just banking that this money is just going to come back to them and it's going to recirculate back out there, and you're going to get it back eventually, because you're not teaching these kids, you're not teaching the parents anything about how to deal with this type of money. I mean, you got to deal with Uncle Sam. You got all other kind of problems. You got all kind of people who are going to be coming to you, begging, asking for money, needing to borrow money. And all of a sudden you think you're Wells Fargo and you're loaning out money to different people and think think these people are going to pay you back and think you're going to collect this money. And, $1 million, I mean, that could set you up. You put it in the right type of instrument, that could set you up real nice down the road where you don't have to worry about working. So I just don't know, where we're heading with this. I'm trying to understand. It's just not, I don't believe that it's sustainable. I don't see where we're going with this. I don't see the benefit of paying a high school player this type of money. I don't know what we're doing. I mean, we just keep pushing the envelope. Eventually, it's just going to be a free fall, and I don't understand. I mean, there has to be some guardrails somewhere. We need to put in some guardrails somewhere. And if it's not, whether it's Congress, because obviously the courts aren't going to do it. People, some smart individuals who really care about the game and really care about these kids are going to have to put some guardrails in there to protect the kids for themselves.
Candy?
So part of the thing is athletes may receive compensation for using their name, image, or likeness in commercial settings. NIL arrangements may be made directly with the athlete or parent/guardian if the athlete is a minor and a business or third party. Compensation is not limited to cash. It may include goods or services. NIL compensation cannot be tied to athletic performance, statistics, awards, or playing time. NIL deals cannot be used to persuade a student athlete to attend a school, and no use of the school's IP, so that you can't use the school name, logos, uniforms, mascots, trademarks, and obviously there is regulations about what industries can actually give NIL deals. But the other thing that really I think about is, as a student in high school, typically you're under the age of 18. You technically can't sign a contract. Anything you sign can be null and void because you're a minor. Now your parents can sign, and the parents would have to sign it, but that's one of the things that I think of is that, and if you're not signing it and your parents are signing it, I could see some issues with this, because some of these parents, depending on what they might think, they might take all the money themselves. Like, oh, here's a good way to make $1 million or $2. Here, I'll have my kid sign an NIL agreement in high school, and he can't have the money because he's not 18. So I get to control it. So it gets complicated, I think.
Yeah, I'll second that too, because you know what? NIL is one thing that Mel alluded to in college, but when you start to get to the high school level, even though they're the 45th state to do it, at some point or another, where do you draw the line? What is it going to be next? Junior high? Give me a break. Really? Seriously? Really? I need to get that in there.
They're already
Like,
offering
give me a break. I
scholarships.
mean, NIL in high school? My gosh. What is this world?
How about the Little League World? How about the Little League World Series? They don't have no money.
Hey, you start that up. I'm going to bring you on a baseball show, let you talk about it. So, not like you're busy enough with me to be good with me. We'll talk about Little Leagues series. And I'm just kidding with you, Tommy. You keep it busy as it is. And you know what? With that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something I haven't done before. I'm going to do an early Shanahan report and get it out there earlier. And after the Shanahan report, we're going to play an interview that I had with James Brockermeyer out at the Senior Bowl. Tommy, you know what? Think about it. Is this the earliest time I've ever put on a Shanahan report at 21 minutes into the broadcast? Probably.
I guess so. Yeah. So,
well, guess what? Do it. It's all the floor's yours.
The story I just put up today on my website is about a library event I did. Apex is a town here, a suburban town here in Raleigh area, and they invited me for a Black History Month to talk about my books, about college football integration, and since we're here in North Carolina, Apex, North Carolina, we focused on the schools and individuals from North Carolina that have been pivotal to advancing college football integration, but they're unknown. The only stories you hear about integration of college sports are Dean Smith, North Carolina basketball with Charlie Scott, which is a legitimate story and a very important story. It's a true story, but it's the only one you hear. You don't hear about Bob Grant at Wake Forest, Butch Harris, his teammate when Wake Forest desegregated in 1964. That was 3 years before Charlie Scott and Dean Smith. And the coach there was Bill Tate. The president was Harold Tribble. They said, we're going to defy the KKK and Jim Crow and break ground and open doors for black kids. And they met a lot of resistance. And in fact, one of the quotes, Bob Grant has since passed away, but one of the quotes he gave me that's in my book and on my website was, it wasn't just him and Butch Henry that had to face a lot of racial prejudice. He was amazed that the president, Harold Tribble, and Bill Tate, the coach, white guys, were willing to take on this challenge. He said, those guys are crazy. They risk having crosses burned on their yard or even being killed. So those are the kind of stories that are lost to history. And another example I pointed out is I've said this before. In 1964, Michigan State was the first fully integrated team to play in the South at North Carolina. That was 1964. The coach then was the coach who I pointed out to Jim Tatum, the coach at North Carolina in the late 50s. He was the one who sent Bobby Bell to Minnesota. He told Minnesota coach Murray Warmoth, if you should take this guy, and if he doesn't pan out for you, I'll pay his scholarship. And keep in mind, this is in 1959. Back then, college coach didn't make much more than a professor. So that's how sure he was Bobby Bell would be a dominant player. And of course, he ended up in the College and Pro Football Hall of Fame. But otherwise, Murray Warmoth at Minnesota wasn't going to take him. And the other thing I pointed out about Jim Tatum that he deserves credit for is scheduling Michigan State at North Carolina in 1964. What they did is North Carolina played at Michigan State in 62 and 63, and then traveled to North Carolina in 64. Now, Jim Tatum had caught one of those Rocky Mountain spotted fever type bug infections in the North Carolina woods, and he died in the summer of 1959. So he wasn't the coach in 62, 63, or 64. Schedules were made 5 to 10 years in advance. So 62 easily takes you to a minimum 57. So Jim Tatum deserves so much credit for advancing college football integration in the state of North Carolina. And then, of course, Jimmy Ray is from Fayetteville, North Carolina. He rode the Underground Railroad to Michigan State and played on 65 and 66 championship teams. So you can go to my website, tomshanahan.report, and look for the library event. And it's not just a story. I've got some video posted with it too.
Beautiful. And Tommy also contributes to the South Florida Tribune, and we appreciate his presence not only on the shows, but he also gets an opportunity to write for us. And we're more than happy to post his stuff on our social media, one of which on Twitter is at Tribune South. So that's where they go, as well as my personal Facebook page. In fact, with that matter, Candy, why don't you give us an early station break?
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media business and how it has evolved, old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Plus, there is the audiobook, so go get that if you like to listen to books. If you want to advertise, if you want to sponsor a show, be a guest on a show, have topic ideas, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. Honestly, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Click it, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then turn on your notifications so you never miss an episode. Back to you, Scott.
All right, Candy. Well, we talked about Sonny Jurgensen. Guess what? And Candy, why don't you do a little bit of quick research for us right now? On Thursday night on Sports Rep, we're going to bring on a guy named Dennis Maruk. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's a star player for the Washington Capitals, and he's going to be on Sports Rep. And there's a chance if I can go ahead, I'm going to try to get him to come out 2-3 times a month. So he's a guy who's been in the NHL for a long, long time. And Candy, why don't you give the audience an update about what we can expect out of Dennis Maruk on Tuesday? He'll be joining myself, Mike Santos, and Cody Spink as well. And if you need another minute, let me know.
Well, he was born in Toronto, Canada. He was selected in 21st overall in the 1975 NHL draft with the California Golden Seals. He played from 75 to 89. He did play in ice hockey. He represented Canada in the I think in the Olympics. But he let me just give you one. Let's see. He scored how many points? He played in the league for quite a while.
One of the established NHL veterans. We're looking forward to having him on the show. So if there's any Washington Capitals or Washington sports fans in general listening to the show, guess what? Thursday night, I'll give you another reason to tune here on the network. So what else do you have, Candy?
Yeah, he was born in 55. He scored a whopping 878 points. In international play, he scored 24 points in 35 games. So he scored 878 points in 888 games. So it's almost a point a game. There aren't too many NHL players that can say that. So, and he shot left. So he was a lefty on top of it all. So.
Yeah. And by the way, I found Dennis Folks on LinkedIn. Great stuff, Candy. All right, let's go. We have an interview that I conducted out in the Senior Bowl named James Brockermeyer. He's a center for the Miami Hurricanes, played 1 year with Miami. He was actually snubbed for the NFL Combine. I'd like everybody to check out my story in the South Florida Tribune. But here's a guy that was snubbed over at the Combine. But take a listen. We got about 3 minutes spread here. So I hope you enjoy this interview. This guy, I know you'll hear this name at some point during the NFL draft, but this guy got a chip on his shoulder, and he's a heck of a player. And Mario Cristobal brought him over for a year. And look what happened. Miami made it to the finals. Candy, go to it. Edition of the Motor City Man Mouse Show. We are at the Senior Bowl here in Mobile, Alabama, and I am pleased to be joined by Jake Brockermeyer. And Jake, great to see you here.
Yes, you too. Glad to be here, and yeah, it's awesome to be here at the Senior Bowl competing against the best.
So tell me about the magical season that Miami had, even though you fell a game short.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, unfortunately only got 1 year at Miami, but you know, awesome year, really great experience. Got to play with awesome players against really good competition every day, including in practice. And I got to play for awesome coaches who, gave us everything they had. And obviously fell short at the end, but I'm really proud of the way we competed the whole season throughout all the ups and downs of the year. And I think we did a lot of good stuff this year.
What was it like playing for Coach Mario Cristobal?
It was awesome. He's a great coach. I had a really good relationship with him this year, and I'll have a great relationship with him for the rest of my life. It was awesome playing for a guy who's had his hand in the dirt, played O-line at Miami. So that was a really good experience. He's a guy who always places a big emphasis on the trenches, O&D line. So it was a really big blessing to get to know him this year and have that opportunity to play for him.
Tell me a little bit about the rest of your college career. What were some of the things that stood out for you?
Yeah, I mean, I had a crazy journey in college. I mean, I played at 3 schools. If you told me I would do that, come out of high school, I'd probably call you crazy. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't change it for the world. I think I developed a lot of good relationships with all my teammates, players, teammates, coaches, and staffers at every school I was at. Learned a lot from every different stop, and I think it's part of the reason I'm here today.
How many different stops did you have?
3.
3, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad, but a lot of the guys are looking to play 5, 6, 7 years. Do you think that's a little bit out of control where at some point you have to test your value going to the pros?
I think everyone's got really unique situations, so I don't want to say someone's wrong for doing it. I mean, I played 5 years in college, so I guess you could say I toed the line of that, I guess you could say. But no, I think everyone's got really unique situations, and no, I don't think anyone is wrong for exercising the right to take another year in college if they want.
Oh, listen, I got news for you. It took me 5 years to graduate from a 4-year school, so I can totally appreciate that. So what type of skills and mindset that you're able to bring to a lot of pros that you have to offer?
Yeah, I think my mindset, my mentality, and my professionalism is something that stands out a lot about me. I think I've learned from a lot of really good vets and coaches over the years throughout my college experience. I've been really blessed to have an awesome support circle around me. So I think my mindset and my mental capacity to handle stuff on the line of scrimmage is something that's been really good for me.
Have you learned anything from some of these coaches here at the Senior Bowl?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah. Every day we're learning stuff from the coaches, coming here, learning a new playbook just a week after we finish the season, definitely a big challenge, but Coach Watson did a great job installing it for us. And I'm really, really glad to work with him this week.
Well, I want to thank you very much for appearing on the Motor City Man Mouse Show, and it's really great, and I wish you nothing but the best in your career. So thanks for spending some time with us here on the Motor City Man Mouse Show.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Well, I'm going to tell you, he's definitely a great young man, very mature, Tommy. What were your impressions of the interview?
Well, it's great that he's had his career finished on such a strong note. I didn't know much about his career earlier. Nothing wrong with 5 years. I mean, lots of guys are in college for 5 years. So he didn't push the envelope on that at all. But, yeah, wish him well.
Now, you know what's nice about those interviews? And Candy, this is good, obviously, as we continue to grow the production side. The ones that we do in person like that certainly pick up a lot better than they do we're in a press conference setting because I don't have the microphone as close as I'd like to. And this was just something, this kid's just a good kid. He really, really is. And I think you have a hidden gem there. And I'll be curious to see what happens, hopefully, on his pro day. Mel, some thoughts about Brockermeyer?
I mean, I think he'll probably get an opportunity. His dad played. His dad was the #1 draft pick. He'll probably get an opportunity somewhere. Just because you don't get invited to the combine doesn't mean that you won't get drafted, or doesn't mean that you won't get an invite to a mini camp or something of that nature. Or you might, to get a free agent contract as well. He's still got his pro day coming up. He needs to do very well in his pro day, and all it takes is one person to fall in love with him. And I'm sure he will get an opportunity because of his last name, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can understand that and appreciate it. It's a double-edged sword, but you just have to use it to your advantage. But I'm pretty sure he will get an opportunity, and we'll see what type of career he can have. I've always said it's tough in a lot of cases because football is a tough game, and it's a tough way to make a living. If you have, he's a smart kid. He doesn't have to play the game of football, obviously, because his dad was successful, and because he's a smart kid, so he can go out there and do something else. So, if the grind gets to be too tough for him, who knows when he may decide to say, I've had enough. He had a twin brother that had to medically that medically retired because of injury. There was a very highly recruited out of high school that went with him also to Alabama. So we'll just have to see how. I wish him nothing but the best of luck. I hope he has a very long and prosperous career.
All right, Candy, you were with me the whole time. We've spoken to him a couple times, but obviously that was your first crack. Give me some thoughts about Proctor-Meyer.
So he started his career playing at Alabama for 3 years. Then he transferred to TCU, where he started in all 12 games. And then he transferred to Miami. He's a center. So let's face it, there's only how many centers in National Football League. There's only how many teams. Yet there's how many colleges. So I hope he is a really good guy. He's 6'3", listed at 295 pounds. I hope he does really well. I actually got a chance to talk to him a little bit in a different interview that you can see on the South Florida Tribune, where I was talking to him about some of the players on the team with him, and he spoke nothing but high regards of his teammates here in Miami. So I would encourage everybody to go watch the other interview that we have. Scott wrote an article about it. It's up on southfloridatribune.com, where he talks about him and has the other interview that we have with them up there as well. But I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he has a very successful career.
Well, the one thing you're going to see in the NFL during free agency, you're going to see it in the draft, there's a need for centers. So this kid's going to get a chance. He's a smart kid. He really is. I got to know him a couple of times. He's a Miami. He obviously graduated with Crystal for the final year, and they did pretty well protecting Carson Beck. So there's no reason why he won't get an opportunity. It just depends on where the right fit is. And heck, I'm pulling for the guy without a doubt. All right, so let's talk about Rutgers. You think when you go to the Big Ten that you should be able to make a lot of money, but that's not the case with the Scarlet Knights. So, for example, this is not an example. This is a fact, people. Rutgers is $78 million in debt in 2024 and 25, and has lost $516.9 million since joining the Big Ten back in 2014 and 15. New AD Kelly Zinn, Z-I-N-N, says it's got to get better. Rutgers is yet to hit their stride since joining the Big Ten in football, holding a 52-93 record over the last 12 years. The Scarlet Knights have not won 8 or more games since leaving the American Conference and joining the Big Ten in 2014. Rutgers is 22-84 in conference play over that same timeline, and are year over year one of the worst Power 4 teams. Coach Rex Schiano enters year 7 of his second stint with the Knights, and we'll look to hoping they'll turn a profit in 2026. Here's the reason why the Big Ten added Rutgers, the single and utmost, because they're trying to get in the number one major media market in the country, the New York, New Jersey area. That was the only intrigue why they brought them in, not because of their athletic prowess, Tommy. And I'm going to tell you, obviously it'll be interesting to see where the Rutgers situation plays out. But how do you lose that much money? Now, I guess there's only one thing I could suggest is part of the profit loss has to be when you're going to Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC and taking those West Coast trips because they're the furthest distance. Tommy,
Scott,
please pick it up.
Wait,
what,
Scott, can you repeat how much?
Yeah, the number that they've lost, Candy, is $516.9 million since joining the Big Ten in 2014 and 2015. Okay. $616 million, not pocket change. All right, Tommy, go for it.
Yeah, 78 million is an extreme number, but basically Rutgers was a group of 5 conference school as far as their facilities, their fan support. They don't have a big basketball arena that sells out every night. They don't sell out their football game with 70, 80,000 fans. So what's happened at Rutgers, I imagine what happened to 90% of the group of the 5 schools, if overnight they were elevated to Power 4 status, just simply on the prospect of maybe getting the TV eyeballs from the New York and New Jersey area. But I don't think they even have that much of a following in New York and New Jersey. I don't think it makes any difference to Big Ten fans in those area to follow the Big Ten. They'll follow the traditional Big Ten schools, the alums that live in that area. But Rutgers by itself, they're not going to drive anything. And, like I say, 78 million is an extreme number, but you can take just about any group of 5 school and jump them up to the Big Ten, and they'd be operating at a loss too, because they're trying to compete with Big Ten schools, and their athletic budgets were far bigger than the Rutgers ever had as a group of 5 school. It's just too much of an overnight change.
All right, Mel.
Mel, your turn.
Oh, yeah, man, I think Tommy makes a good point. I remember Rutgers a long time. Rutgers is a good school, and I think that's where it fits in the Big Ten. It's a good school, good education, but there's no question about it. The Big Ten wanted to expand their footprint. They wanted to expand it out to the East Coast, just like when they added UCLA and USC, Washington and Oregon. They wanted to expand their footprint out to the West Coast. I mean, they want to get they have pretty much all the major television markets. I look at UCLA, and I mean, their running deficit in the last 6 years is $219 million. When when you want to play big boy football, or when you want to play big boy basketball, or you want to swim in the deep end, then you have to do some things that are a little bit different. I mean, you have to put a product out there that people are going to want to see. And we've seen the attendance at the Rose Bowl as of late hasn't been very good. Hasn't been very many people out there because the product hasn't been very good. Even at Pauley Pavilion, I think the girls probably draw more than the men do at Pauley Pavilion as far as basketball. The girls finished undefeated this year in Big Ten play. The guys are kind of on the bubble as far as to whether or not they're going to make the tournament. When you play big boy sports, you have to put a big boy product out there, and unfortunately, the revenue driving sports at UCLA have not been doing that as of late, and that's why you see the type of deficits at UCLA that you see, and you see the type of deficits that you have at Rutgers. I mean, when Shiana was there the first time, and they were playing in a different conference, I believe, at that particular, they might have been in the Big Ten at that time. Yeah, they were in the Big Ten at that time. But when he was there the first time, before he left to take the Tampa Bay job, I mean, people were excited about watching Rutgers football. Rutgers football meant something. They haven't done much. I don't know what the basketball program is doing right now, but they just have to get back to playing, big boy football.
Candy.
Of the $76 million that Rutgers spent on football, $17 million went to coaches' salaries, $11.1 million went to support staff salaries, $4.5 million went to student athlete meals, and $2 million went to the recruiting budget. They spent $12 million more this year than they did last year on football alone. Rutgers wanted to play with the big boys. They wanted to get in with the Big Ten. They wanted to they thought it would equate to big revenue. The problem is the one thing that they need to do is they need to win. And if you don't put a winning product on the field, you don't have fans that are coming out. You don't have a lot of big support. You don't get a lot of fans, recruits, all of that. And so the biggest thing is they need to win. Otherwise, they're going to keep having these issues. And Big Ten might not be the conference for them.
Well, they spend a lot of money on staff and the coach and all that. So a lot of it's devoured there. I don't know what their NIL budget is, but the bottom line is, other than like what I mentioned earlier, the only reason why they were enticing for the Big Ten is they were the number one media market in the country. Why do you think Maryland got in? Maryland got in because they wanted the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. market. So you got Washington and New York as you added, I think Missouri would have been a better fit for the Big Ten because that matches up more academically, and it's a great journalism school. But Rutgers is only in there for the number one TV market. That's it. And their performance on the field is showing that they definitely can't keep up with these guys. Well, you know what? We're going to continue the narrative here because Nebraska wants the Big 12, and they admit joining the Big 10, Nebraska went from dominant Big 12 power to completely irrelevant in Big 10, and their AD is publicly admitting they screwed up. Okay, Tommy, again, Nebraska, I knew this was going to happen. Everybody kept doing was beating up on them. Wisconsin kept beating up on them. When Nebraska didn't have Oklahoma or Texas, that was a weaker conference. But I knew Nebraska was going to be overmatched when they got to the Big Ten. That was a no-brainer. So, Tommy, go ahead.
Yeah, college recruiting has shifted dramatically since Nebraska was able to dominate back in the old Big 8 days. But, they not only left the Big 8 for the Big 10, they left their partner Oklahoma. Oklahoma-Nebraska rivalry was one of the traditional matchups for the year at the end of the year. So they gave away all that. If they go to the Big 12, I don't know if they'll make a difference. I think the landscape has just changed for Nebraska. And keep in mind, a lot of that's Nebraska's success under Tom Osborne is because those guys were on steroids.
That's true. And number one, Oklahoma is no longer there in the SEC. And yes, I agree with you with the steroids thing. Only never got publicized until nowadays it does because those guys haven't been able to compete against, even with steroids, they can't compete with the monsters of the Big Ten. Great point, Tommy. All right, Mel.
So, Tommy, you know that for a fact that they were on steroids? Is that
your old coach, Terry Donahue, said that.
Oh, we played Nebraska a couple times. We played in my freshman year. Yeah, we played in my freshman year. I think Turner Gill was the quarterback. And I think I told you guys this story before. We practiced inside Pauley Pavilion because we were going to unveil a new offense. And we were going to trick Nebraska. We were going to come out. We were going to run the option. We ran the wishbone with Steve Bono, our prototypical drop back quarterback, as the option quarterback, and we came out there and ran the option. I think they beat us like 45-3. That was my freshman year, and then we played them again my senior year. I think it was my junior or senior year. They beat us again, but I mean, we didn't go out there and try to run the option that particular time. We played them out there in Nebraska, but yeah, they were always good. I think it was my senior year, but then my brother's redshirt junior year, they beat Nebraska back in the Rose Bowl. But yeah, that was one of those, when we're talking about rivalries, rivalries that will be missed. That is one of the rivalries that I did grow up watching was Nebraska and Oklahoma. And that was some very, very good football. Whether watching Turner Gill and Mike Rozier. I mean, they had a lot of good, talented players at the University of Nebraska, and it never made sense to me when they decided to switch over and join the Big Ten. It just never made sense to me. And since they've gone to the Big Ten, I mean, the program, their program has just been terrible. I think they're playing good basketball this year, aren't they? Or am I
Yeah, they got a real good basketball team.
Yeah, they got a good basketball team this year, but football-wise, it's just been irrelevant. And now, if they decide to go back to the Big 12, like Tom said, their running buddies no longer there. They're the running buddies in the SEC,
Exactly.
So it just wouldn't be the same. I mean, I don't know, where they should go. Big 12 might be a good option for them. Maybe go to the Pac-12. Maybe you can, be dominant in the reshaped Pac-12. But they're a Group of 5 team now, or a Group of 6, or whatever they're called now. So, I don't know, but it's been very, very difficult for Nebraska since they decided to leave the Big 8 or whatever it was at that particular time, Big 12, and join the Big 10.
No question about it. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
What year was that when you lost 45-3? Your freshman year? Was that at Lincoln?
1984. So yeah,
Lincoln?
No, that was at the Rose Bowl. So I think they had the third string tailback. I think at that time was Doug Dubose, and he ended up doing a real good thing. But he was a third string tailback, and I think he had 100 and something on us, and he was a third string guy.
Yeah. Well, maybe it was the game at the Rose Bowl. I always
Now,
Well,
mind you, I was
remember
playing.
they-
I was freshman. Green. This is green as can be. I think that was my third game. I think that was the third game. I think we opened up with BYU, and then we played San Diego State, beat San Diego State, and I think we were ranked number one at this particular time before we played Nebraska. We went to BYU, we beat BYU, kicked 6 field goals. John Lee kicked 6 field goals against San Diego State and beat them 16-0. I think we were number one playing against Nebraska, and we got railroaded 45-3.
One of those years when they got beat bad by Nebraska, Donahue said after the game, there's something different about their players. He was obviously hitting it at the steroids, and he got blistered in the media for making charges that were unproven. Well, it's just like how much money the media was slow to catch on to steroids, just like they're slow to understand what's going on with NIL and agents with college kids and stuff like that. But Donahue alluded to it, and the only thing he got for it was beaten up. And over time, all these steroids stories did come out. Nebraska first became a power under Bob Devaney, who was a Michigan State Duffy Daugherty disciple. And what Devaney did was he started bringing in black kids from the East Coast, like Rich Glover, and then keeping guys like Johnny Rogers from Omaha home. And he did a lot of things for the black kids, because this is in my books. Rich Glover talks about it. For a black kid, just to find a haircut in a white town like Lincoln was hard to do. So Bob Devaney had barbers come down from Omaha to do that. He set up an African-American room for him. He had, when the parents came in from New Jersey, he knew their time was limited. And so he made sure that everything was first class for the parents as far as transportation to get around town. So Nebraska had an edge on recruiting black kids and bringing them to Lincoln, and that's how Bob Devaney won. Tom Osborne kept it going the same blueprint, but then he also had the steroid players. So they'll never be able to match that again.
They were bigger and faster. There's no question about that.
Good evening, Earl. Glad to have you in the chat room. Great stuff. Well, that's a good point by both of y'all. Here's the main thing. Again, Nebraska has no play. If they want to go back to the Big 12, Big 12's no pushover either. They got some pretty decent schools in there. What they did is they went to the Big 10, they took the money, and they ran. The problem is they didn't realize how good the competition was. Okay, Iowa was better than Iowa State, at least back in the day. And then you run across Wisconsin. Wisconsin, all they do is produce running backs and offensive linemen. They can match them with their steroid people. And by the way, you ever heard of Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State? At last I heard, they were pretty good. Okay, and you have all these different type of schools in here that you can win. You only have 2 or 3 thanks, Earl. I appreciate you. You have 2 or 3 schools that you only have to worry about, but in the Big 10, you're worrying about 7, 8, 9, and then you go ahead and add USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon. This is becoming a nightmare for Nebraska. Scott Frost, to me, couldn't even win in his alma mater. It's not the same place he was when he quarterbacked there. So Nebraska just simply took the money and ran, and they just couldn't keep up with the competition. And now they're having cold feet. But I don't think if you went back to the Big 12, it would be much better. You might as well stay in Big 10 and get your butt kicked. And thank God Fred Hoiberg is winning it on the basketball level. They were considered a football school, but Hoiberg has done a good job there. Candy, I've said plenty. What do you think?
Nebraska's total football budget is $84.1 million. Total athletic department operating costs around $175 to $200+ million. A single home game generates about $10 million, with 83% of ticket revenue coming from football. Significant investments have been made, including over $1 million salaries for their coordinators. And then there was a $160 million Go Big project that was recently undertaken to upgrade their football facilities. The program itself has a $1.2 billion valuation. And it's pretty much sustained and does not rely on university funds.
There you have it. All right, well, let's go to our featured topic of the night. Which QB could be the next Sam Darnold? I'll give you some choices. Let's stay with the list, okay? Because there could be other ones out there, but this is where I'm going to go with the list. You got Malik Willis. You got Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Trey Lance. Okay, Tommy, give me one or two, and then we'll move the show along. You know, Sam Darnold, we know, had a remarkable year. Maybe a change of scenery is obviously in store for some of these other guys.
I'll say Daniel Jones. He was doing that last year before Indianapolis went into a slump, and then he got hurt. He had suffered with multiple injuries. But the interesting thing about that is Jones had his confidence tested playing New York with no pass protection with the Giants. And, of course, that's what set Sam Darnold back, playing with the Jets with no pass protection. Right. So I'll say Daniel Jones.
Actually, Tommy, he's not on the list. Tommy, sorry to interrupt you. He's not on the list, but I also found out today that he signed a transition tag for Indianapolis and becomes the first quarterback in 30 years to sign the transition tag. So he's not on the list. There's a little update that you maybe didn't hear earlier, but I actually got that update before we went on today, just so you know, Tommy. So
no, I did not hear that.
Yeah, I know. That's why
I would still classify him the same way. And then, you know, Indianapolis kind of they made steps to improve their defense too. And of course, that was part of Sam Darnold's story in Seattle.
But anybody on this list?
The other guys, well, I can't make a strong case for any of those other guys.
That's fair enough. Okay,
certainly
I'll take
not
that.
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields is a train wreck. I feel bad for him though because he's been in a few tough situations. But yeah, this list is a very interesting list. That's why I put it out there. But since we're talking about it, and I got this update before we came on, that Daniel Jones has signed a transition tag for the Indianapolis Colts. I believe it's at about $36 million is what it is. And it's the first time that the transition tag, I'm not talking about franchise, has been actually given to a quarterback in 30 years. That's an update, Tommy, Mel, and Candy. Just want to bring that to everybody's attention out here. So, okay, I mean, Tommy isn't crazy about the list. I'll accept that. Okay, what about you, Mel?
Well, who are the other quarterbacks that you named on the list? I didn't hear that.
That's okay. I'll repeat them back. Okay, I was probably talking fast. Then again, what's new, anyways? Malik Willis, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Will Levis, Zach Wilson, Kenny Pickett, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Trey Lance.
And you're asking who will be the next Sam Darnold. So you're talking about who's going to lead their team to the Super Bowl?
Not so much the Super Bowl, Mel. Why don't we just say who's going to have a really good year? I mean, Super Bowl's a tall task for some of these guys. How about getting a team to the playoffs at least?
You know, I think if they allow Mac Jones to leave, which I don't think San Francisco is inclined to do unless somebody pays a bounty for him, I think Mac Jones could probably have a impactful year. I think Kyler Murray, I think this is maybe a wake-up call for him, even though I've never really been sold on him because I really don't like his size. But I think this is a wake-up call for him, maybe that, you know, whatever he's been doing in the past is not working, and maybe he needs to play less video games, spend less time in a video game, and spend more time watching film and perfecting his craft. Maybe he has an opportunity to have a bounce back year because he hasn't really played good football in a little while. And, you know, obviously he was the number one overall pick back in 2019, I believe it was, when he came out. So I believe that he has an opportunity, depending on where it is that he ends up going, whether it's a team like Minnesota where they're pushing the incumbent starter, bringing somebody in there with some veteran leadership that can show J.J. McCarthy how to be a pro and maybe push him a little bit. There's a lot of different, I mean, that's a lot of quality guys that are going to be available. I mean, Anthony Richardson, that's, unfortunately for him, I'll get to that later in my parting shot, but Yeah, I mean there's a lot of quality guys there that could make some hay depending on where they end up. I mean, you have Miami's gonna you got all these quarterbacks and it's gonna be like musical chairs. Are they gonna be better? Is a change in environment going to change their attitude? Is it going to change their perspective? Right. Is it going to change their the way they approach things? And is it going to change the result? I don't know. We'll just have to see. Tua, I think he should retire. I just don't think that he wants to hang in there, standing there in the pocket. But I think Kyler Murray. If I were to if you just put a gun in my head and I had to choose one, I would probably choose Kyler Murray.
Okay, I get that with the video games. Candy, I'll go to you last. Okay, here's where I'm going to go with this. Malik Willis, to me, in Green Bay did a heck of a job, and they gave up on him a little bit earlier. I know Candy's there. Well, you want to go next? You like to go last, no, Candy? You tell me.
No.
Malik Willis. But here's the wild card in this whole equation, and I mean a wild card. While I believe Malik Willis would be the guy, the one that I really like is actually Trey Lance. And I'll tell you why I like. Yeah, I do too. And here's why I go with Trey Lance. Number one, he spends a year with Jim Harbaugh, okay? And when you spend an opportunity to work with Jim Harbaugh, this guy hasn't really gotten a fair shake anywhere. I think this kid could be exploded. This is one of these guys that you least expect who can actually do well. So of this group, I'm going to say Trey Lance is my wild card if I had to pick one. All right, Candy, go ahead.
I was going to say Malik Willis because, hey, I think it really depends on the team that all of these guys go to. Obviously, you have to have a team around you. Yes, quarterback is the leader of the team, and you need a strong person to do that. But you also need the offensive line. Let's face it. If you're a quarterback, the one place you do not want to go to is the New York Jets, because it just doesn't matter what kind of team you have around you. So I think it really depends, going to the Steelers. Is Aaron Rodgers going to be back? Is he not going to be back? They have a fairly good team around them. The Cardinals, not the best team around them, but they're going to need somebody now that they let Kyler Murray go. There was talk about Packers South down in Miami, considering the GM and the coach and all these other coaches that he's taken. I don't see it. I've heard that they're not going to go in that direction. The Cardinals make sense. It's LaFleur's brother coaching over there. You never know. But again, it depends on the team you have around them, especially on offensive line for some of these quarterbacks. So,
well, the only thing I'll say about Malik Willis, he's going to get paid a lot of money. Period. Okay. From that point, Rodney Harrison calls out Tony Dungy over the Bill Belichick stuff. You guys got it wrong. Guess what? I agree with Rodney Harrison. What about you, Tom?
Hey, Rodney Harrison's always been a straightforward guy. When he was with the Chargers, he was always a good interview, good insight. Always liked Rodney Harrison, and not to mention he was always a great player too. Rodney confronted Tony Dungy face to face on that in the interview. You can watch the video of it. I think they were out at Alcatraz when he said that. So I don't have any problems with Rodney Harrison calling out Tony Dungy because Rodney is a straightforward guy. However, I will add to that, Tony Dungy is a pretty upright guy. If he's being shady about whether he voted for Bill Belichick or not, or if he didn't, I think that says a lot about what a lot of the NFL coaches think of Bill Belichick. They all know he is an NFL Hall of Fame coach from his record in the Super Bowl, but they also don't like a lot of things, Inflategate and all the other things he's done over his career, Spygate, and just he's a bad guy, period. He's just a curmudgeon. And so I think Dungy's saying something that probably a lot of other coaches aren't going to say, but that's what they just don't like Belichick, and maybe they wanted to make him wait a year before he got into the Hall of Fame.
You know what, Tommy? I agree with you. I think a lot of them did want to make a statement, make him wait a year. I know. I think what you're saying is valid, but you know what? As far as Rodney Harris is concerned, he is a very, very straightforward guy, and he don't mind telling. And I like Rodney Harrison and his analysis. All right, Mel.
So the confrontation was what Rodney Harrison told Tony Dungy that the voters got it wrong when they didn't put him in the Hall of Fame, first ballot Hall of Fame, make him a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he's probably, I think he has a valid point there. I think obviously, people have problems with Deflategate. They have problems with Spygate. They just have problems with Bill Belichick. Obviously, Tony Dungy and Bill Belichick competed against each other quite a bit. And maybe Tony Dungy has a Super Bowl more too if it wasn't for the fact of the Patriot dynasty at that particular time. Could he harbor some ill will towards Belichick? Possibly. I don't know. I mean, I think he probably respects him. But if he had an opportunity where he could not cast a vote for him, would he do it? Maybe. I don't know. But again, we know that he's going to get in there. It doesn't make any sense. Like I talked about it with Ken Griffey Jr. How is he not a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer? How is one person hold out? Or I think it was one person or two people or three, whatever it was. How is he not a unanimous first ballot Hall of Famer? I mean, the guy was, had been great for the game of baseball. We can't. What Bill Belichick and what the Patriots did, just like Robert Kraft, how is he not in the Hall of Fame? What's taking him so long to get in the Hall of Fame? Why has he not been in the Hall of Fame with some of the owners that have already been put in the Hall of Fame? Forget about the little incident down there and at the little massage parlor, whatever happened down there. I mean, he should have been in the Hall of Fame before that anyway. I mean, he should have long been in the Hall of Fame before some other owners were inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, it's a bunch of guys who probably weren't very popular in high school, I guess, and they have an opportunity to wield a little power, and they are exercising that right to wield that power now, where they feel like they have the power. That's why I don't like, when writers hold a grudge with players because they don't grant them an interview or whatever the case, or they're not the nicest person to them during an interview. You don't know what this guy is dealing with day in and day out, the amount of pressure that these guys are under. And then you want to ask him a dumb question or ask him a series of questions, and he really doesn't feel like answering the questions of the day. But because of media obligations, he has to answer questions. I think that's stupid. You judge a guy by what they did on the field, how they performed on the field. Could you write the story of that game without mentioning that person's name? And if you cannot, the person's a Hall of Famer. If you can, he's probably not a Hall of Famer.
Well, don't say that about Barry Bonds, because that's probably the major reason he isn't in the Hall of Fame. Well, hold on. Let me just say this. I got connections, inside of MLB. I agree with you for the most time that you judge people by what they did on the field. I'll give you two examples. Steve Carlton got in. Eddie Murray weren't very nice. I get you. You're all right there. But Barry Bonds was an outright jerk, and this guy was a steroid guy. So give me a break. Barry Bonds is a fraud, man. We can talk. If you want to come on a baseball show, I'll put you on with my baseball people now.
Steroids is not going to make you put bat on ball.
No, but Barry Bonds is a fraud. That's a fact.
But it's not going to help you to put bat on ball.
Yeah, well, Barry Bonds, that's true. It may or may not, but the bottom line is, if you like the hand that feeds you, guess what? Barry Bonds is in the Hall of Fame. He didn't kiss enough butt.
They love A-Rod. He's not going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Well,
he's a part of the media now, and he's probably not going to get in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I got news for you. Mel just volunteered himself an opportunity to come on 108.6's Baseball Talk on Monday night beginning at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Mm-hmm. So, Mel, looking forward to having you on in a recent date. And it'll be good. I like to see how I want to see how you're handling the baseball business, man. Oh, yeah, man. All your points on
baseball. I like baseball. And my dad always said baseball was my better sport, believe it or not.
Well, good. Then now you really volunteered to come on. Hey, you know what? When we pause inside the pigskin on Saturday, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put you on the Saturday show with some of my young kids, or I'll put you on Monday night. We'll talk about it at a later date. You like baseball? Bell Volin told himself he's going on. All right, but with all due respect, for the most part, everything you're saying is on point. I'm just agitating you a little bit about baseball. That's all.
No
Barry
problem.
Bonds is an idiot. That's all. All right, Candy, go ahead. I don't even know what this topic started. But go ahead. And by the way,
we're talking about NFL and the Hall of Fame and how Tony Dungy didn't want to reveal who he voted for because he wants confidentiality. I get that.
There you go.
My issue is, and I get at some point you have to limit, but why can we only vote 3 to 5 players in the Hall of Fame a year?
Because then it doesn't make it if you have just a infinite amount of number of guys that you can put in there, then it's no longer special. It's no longer exclusive. It should be hard to get in, right?
It should be, and I agree with that. But how many people retire every year from the game?
How many people are Hall of Famers? There's not that. I mean, how many people retire a Hall of Famer?
Right.
Or will they have Hall of Fame credentials? Now, there's some people who are not in the Hall of Fame. Lobens Brown, who should be in the Hall of Fame. He should definitely be in the Hall of Fame. Tom, you still up there in Michigan? I mean, we need to get on those beat writers up there. Lomas Brown should be in the Hall of Fame. There's no reason. You compare his number to Jackie Slater's. Just look at his numbers compared to Jackie Slater's. And Lomas Brown's numbers, as far as all pros and all that kind of stuff, are right there, if not better, than Jackie Slater's. And Jackie Slater was the first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, Scott.
You know what, Mel? I will back you all day long about Loomis Brown. This guy belongs in. Why he's not in is anybody's guess, period. Now you really scored a point with me on that one. I got to know Loomis pretty well anyways when I was covering the team and as a player. And then, of course, he's a Florida Gator, too. So, obviously, anybody that came from Florida, I got along well with him. But Loomis definitely belongs in the Hall of Fame. That's not even – you hit a bullseye with that one, Mel. Period. Great stuff. Jackie Slater, I agree. Okay, well, let's continue on. Candy, unless you finish. Oh, by the way, Earl has to ask Mel a question about whether or not he thinks Malik Willis would be a good fit out in Pittsburgh.
I don't know. I'm not really sold on Malik Willis right now. I'd rather take Trey Lance because of what I've seen him do. I don't particularly care for Malik Willis's size. I didn't really like the film that he put out when he was in, what was that, Tennessee? Was he in Tennessee? I didn't really like the film that he put out there when he was in Tennessee. And I didn't see him much in Green Bay, but I know there's a lot of people talking about it. I know the pundits are talking about him and talking about him being a $30-some-odd million quarterback. And then I heard Cowherd talk about today. He said somebody did some reporting, I think it is from The Athletic, that there's not really a market for Malik Willis. So we'll just kind of have to see how it all plays out.
Okay, that's fair. All right, Earl says my cousin should be in the Hall of Fame. Marvin Powell Jr. should be in there. Well, listen. Well, I actually did a little research on Marvin Powell Jr. and I looked at his numbers. He is in the College Football Hall of Fame, by the way. So he had a pretty good career. So I'm glad you brought it up. I did my homework on all of it, everybody, and Marvin Powell Jr. was definitely one. There could be a case for that at some point or another. Two more topics to get to before we hit parting shots. Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh got into a post game back in September. Guess what? Cohen was telling what's his name? Saleh, keep my name out of your mouth. Well, guess what? Now they're in the same division as division rivals, and Saleh is now in charge, of the Tennessee Titans. Boy, this is going to get a little bit dicey now that they're in the same division, isn't it, Tommy?
Yeah. Well, you see that with the other guys. Harbaugh and Carroll didn't like each other. And Harbaugh had who was the Lions coach when Harbaugh slapped him on the back or something like that?
Oh, that was Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, and he chased after Harbaugh.
Yeah,
Belichick and Parcells barely shook hands. So it'll just be the latest edition. It won't be anything new.
Yeah, it's be funny with those two guys in the same division. I'm looking forward to it, actually. All right, Mel.
Look, I mean, guys have gotten too chummy. I mean, I remember, I don't think Buddy Ryan would shake anybody's hand. Was it Buddy Ryan? Yeah, Buddy Ryan. I don't think he would shake anybody's hand after a game. He just didn't believe in that. Guys just got too chummy.
He punched his head coach.
I mean, everybody's coming from the same tree now. They're all buddies. They're all pals. Everybody's coming from the same tree, the Shanahan tree or whatever. I mean, they all coached together, so they're all buddy. Well, this guy, he didn't come from that tree. He doesn't. Hey, he says Chicago and Green Bay, they shouldn't like each other, and he's bringing back the old. The good old days. Dick. I mean, he shook hands, but he probably did it because he had to. But I don't think him and Buddy Ryan shook hands. I don't believe they shook hands after games. And that was his old defensive coordinator. I think it's good. I mean, I think it sets an example for the players. It sets the tone. This is who we are. This is how we're going to be. And if you guys don't like it, oh well. I think it's great.
Me too. That's why I brought it up. That's why it's a topic. Candy, go on.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur and Ben Johnson did not have a cordial greeting after their games. That's been well documented. So, I get it. That you're opposing your especially rivalries. I get it. Do they need to? No. Are we making more out of it than we probably, but I will say one of the things the NHL gets it right, because the NHL does they congratulate, like if you watch like the Olympics and you watch them after the games going down, but that's almost a thing of the past. Not everybody does it anymore. So should the coaches do it? I don't know. I don't know that it matters to most of us whether they shake hands after the game or not. We're all interested in the game.
Well, here's the kicker, though. Saleh was a defensive coordinator, mind you,
Right.
of the 49ers. He wasn't a head coach. And now these two get each other twice a year in the same. That's why I brought this up. He's a defensive coordinator. Not talking head coach, defensive coordinator. Thanks, Earl. So it's going to be interesting to watch these two go at it again. Obviously, Saleh has a lot of work to do to get the Titans straightened around, although they made the right hire. And I think Malik Willis could do all right in a Mike McCarthy system. I really do. Mike McCarthy knows how to work with quarterbacks. We'll see how this plays out. It's just something worth bringing up. Final topic of the night before we go to parting shots. Detroit Lions trade running back David Montgomery to Houston Texans for offensive lineman Juice Scruggs, a 4th-round pick in 26. And a 7th-round pick in 26. I'm going to say this real quick. Brad Holmes, that's another fleece job if I ever saw one, because Montgomery is closing in on his 30s and he gets 2 picks and an offensive lineman. Brad Holmes, that was a fleece job. Unbelievable. I make this deal all day long. Tommy, do you? Thanks, bro.
Yeah, it looks like a good trade with the draft picks. The thing that bothers me about it is, before the Lions went into their slump, one of the strengths of the team that everybody talked about was they had these 2 strong backs playing together, David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs. Well, I guess apparently they weren't really playing together so well. I guess Montgomery wasn't happy with sharing the spotlight or all the attention going to Gibbs as the younger player. So there was something that wasn't working behind the scenes, and then of course money is involved. So that's what's disappointing about it, that you had something that seemingly was working, 2 strong running backs working together, which is more and more important in the NFL than ever before. You can't run a guy 30, 40 times a game anymore. So it's one of those changes in football that a guy like me still has a tough time adjusting to.
Well, here's what's going to happen in that situation. Brad Holmes knows Montgomery's gone. He's going to find somebody in the draft. He can draft well in the middle of those rounds, or don't be surprised if there's a free agent out there that you can get pennies on the dollar from, who's in who's in a prove-it year, give me a 1-year deal, see what happens. That's what'll happen with Holmes. And meanwhile, if you can get 2 draft choices on offensive lineman for a guy who's a running back in his 30s, Brad Holmes just fleeced the Texans and that. Remember that Matthew Stafford trade for Jared Goff? He made out like bandits in that one. Brad Holmes has a tendency to fleece teams, and the Texans just got fleeced. All right, Mel.
I'll give you another example of how about
Go ahead,
that.
Tom.
The Chargers in the early '80s, they had Chuck Muncie and James Brooks in their backfield. Muncie was the bigger guy, but he was a tailback, and Brooks was playing the fullback role. And Brooks didn't like having to block for Muncie. Well, Brooks was getting plenty of his carries and passes. And, they had a great thing going, a 1-2 thunder and lightning 1-2 punch with Brooks and Muncie. It was just a backwards from the traditional role. And he didn't like playing in second fiddle to Muncie. And so he kind of forced the trade to Cincinnati. And then what happened to him after that? Sometimes you just got to be happy with the situation you got.
It's true. Okay. Who hasn't spoken yet?
Well, that's me. That's easier said than done. These guys all have egos. They all have aspirations. They have goals. They have dreams. They have things that they want to accomplish in the game. It was great while, Detroit had a window of opportunity, and it looks like that window could be possibly closing on them. They lost the offensive coordinator, and he's gone on to become the head coach in Chicago. Now they're losing Knuckles. I mean, that was a great 1-2 punch that they had there. Yeah, I mean, they can probably find somebody else, but, there's other that can replace the production. But as far as the camaraderie that they had, the chemistry, how they cheered for one another, and I'm sure that, a little jealousy may have played into it a little bit. He wanted more carries. He wanted more touches. He wasn't getting the type of touches that he was getting when he first came there. He could see that the offense was, slowly becoming Jahmyr Gibbs' offense because of, hey, look here. I mean, the guy can hit his head on the goalpost from anywhere in the field. Montgomery was quick, but he didn't have that long range speed. I mean, he was going to get caught from behind, but Jahmyr Gibbs, anywhere on the field, he can hit his head on the goalpost. So it's unfortunate. Now, maybe he'll go down there. He's only 29 years old, but he does have some carries on him, and he has some big hits on him too. He gets a little dinged up. Maybe he can go down there, resurrect his career, be the lead back down there in Houston. That makes him happy. Hey, it's a good football team too. They're a playoff team, so I mean, it's not like he's going to Cleveland or some team like that where basically he's going to purgatory, or even the Raiders. He's going to a place where he's going to have an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. And like you said, Tom, I mean, what a job by office. I mean, you trade one player. Typically, they say a 29-year-old running back is washed up. You trade him for 3 players. You get a player and 2 draft picks. I mean, I think that's outstanding on the Detroit Lions' part as far as team building is concerned and roster construction.
Another thing about this, and you can talk about this, Mel. I remember when I was a young sports writer in San Diego, and Bill Munson had gone, who had been with the Lions, and then he'd gone to San Diego. And he talked about how he was economically tied to Detroit because that's where he made the bigger name in his career. And so San Diego might have been a more desirable place to live, but he could make more. He had a better name identity in Detroit. And then that was certainly the case with your dad, Mel, where he had a car dealership. And, Mel Farr was a big name, but he was a bigger name in Detroit than anywhere else as far as after football.
Yeah, without question. And he had moved out to L.A. afterwards and didn't like it. He said, man, I got to get back out to Detroit. Nobody knows me out here. I got to get back to Detroit where people know me. And he moved back to Detroit. This is a story my mom told me. They were, sitting in the bed. I don't know if he's trying to get a dealership out there, what he was doing out there, but they had moved out there for a little bit, once his playing career was over. I don't remember. I didn't, it might have been while he was playing. I don't remember. Because all I remember is growing up, they might have gone out there. It might have been scouting for some places. He was maybe thinking about going back out there, but he said, "No, I'm going back to Detroit. Don't nobody know me out here." He made his hay and made a name for himself in Detroit.
Yeah, and that's where David Montgomery made his name.
You know what I've enjoyed tonight? I've enjoyed the banner, Candy, between Tommy and Mel. Great stuff. Might have to go to this foursome a lot more. I've really enjoyed this. It's been good stuff. All right, Candy, you got the last word on this one.
1-2 punch was Detroit and the last couple years. Now, David Montgomery, we've seen a decline in his carries. And part of that might have been the offensive coordinator, switching from Ben Johnson to your new offensive coordinator and it just not being the same offense. It's hard for teams in the NFL to keep all of their players and to keep all of them happy, especially when you have a couple of running backs on your squad and you're giving both of them reps. So am I surprised? No, in today's day and age. But as far as Detroit is, I think they got the better end of the deal. And I think they'll do well.
You get 2 drafters, you get an offensive lineman, and they're giving up a guy closing in on his 30s with the wear and tear. I mean, I'm not saying and bear in mind, he only has 2 years left on his contract, too. And that's it. Detroit has the draft capital, and they have the offensive lineman. And where they find that complementary running back, it's anything possible. And let's not lose sight of one other thing, too. Whether you find him in the draft or as an undrafted free agent, it doesn't matter. So it'll be interesting how it plays out. All right, well, let's go to our parting shots. Tommy, lead off, please.
Well, we'll talk a little basketball. There's a guy named Trey Holloman who was a great player, a good player for Michigan State. His freshman, sophomore, junior years. His junior year, he really emerged as a better shooter. And the Spartans went to the Elite Eight. And then he took the NIL money to go to North Carolina State. And North Carolina, he may not even make the NCAA tournament at NC State. Michigan State is rolling along, even though they need Trey Holloman's versatility to play a shooting guard role and then give Jeremy Fierce a break at point guard. And I'm not criticizing Trey Holloman because he made generational money. North Carolina State gave him a lot more money than he was going to make at Michigan State. But it's a sad thing about this whole NIL. Trey Holloman loved Michigan State. Michigan State has a tradition, the senior night, they kiss the Spartan logo at center court. The seniors do. And Michigan's players, surprise, surprise, were disrespectful of that. As the clock was winding down, the Spartans had a double-digit lead. They were shooting some free throws, and the Spartans seniors were going to come out of the game and kiss the logo, and a couple of Michigan players were standing on it like they didn't know the tradition. And Trey Holloman came over there and shoved them out of the way. And Izzo loved that so much that he was standing up for his teammates that he let Trey Holloman kiss the Spartan logo as a junior, not knowing that the guy was going to take NIL money and leave. And again, I'm not criticizing the guy. He made a ton of money. But with all the circumstances, when he's 50 years old, and especially if NC State doesn't make the NCAA tournament, when he's old, and Michigan State has what they call grind week, where they have the reunions, and Izzo's been there 30 years, so you got a lot of guys coming back for this. He's not going to have a grind week at NC State. And if he did come to a Michigan State grind week, it won't be the same. So, again, I'm not criticizing him. I want to emphasize that enough. He took the money, but what's it going to mean to him later in life I just think it's a sad story in the end.
Well, I think it's a sad story because you had Tom Izzo as your coach, and this guy here is probably just as much of a coach after you leave as he is when you're there. So, that's a great point. All right, Mel, go ahead.
What was the question? What was the question?
What's your parting shots? Say whatever you want.
I was reading last week, I think it was last week, over the weekend, about Anthony Richardson, and they're talking about Anthony Richardson, and the Colts decided to allow him to seek a trade. They're not allowing him to seek a trade. I mean, they're going to get rid of him. There is no market for Anthony Richardson, unfortunately. And as I was alluding to with Anthony Richardson and Trey Lance, unfortunately, they both didn't have a lot of college snaps. and I'm teaching a friend of mine's daughter how to drive. And the only way to learn how to drive is to drive. You can't learn how to drive by watching somebody else drive or read manuals or anything like that. The only way to learn how to drive is to get behind the steering wheel and drive. The only way to play quarterback, the only way to learn to play quarterback in the NFL is to play quarterback, not watch other guys play quarterback, not just go through practice doing it. You have to play the position. Now, Daniel Jones, he's got the transition tag, as you alluded to earlier.
Right. Yeah. He's frozen. Mel. Well, sure he'll come back. Okay. Well, you know what? All right, Mel. Well, go ahead, Candy, and when he comes back, he can resume.
I know this is a football show, but I'm gonna say tomorrow, or the World Baseball Classic starts on Thursday, I believe it is. There was yesterday and today there were some exhibition games. Just enjoy the baseball that's there. Oh, Mel's coming back.
Sorry, my internet was messing up. I don't know what was going on.
That's okay. You
can
conclude. That's all right.
No, I was talking about Trey Lance and Anthony Richardson. The only way you got to play the position. You know, Trey Lance, because of COVID and whatnot, he didn't get that many games in college. Right. Anthony Richardson, we know he didn't have that many starts in college as well. And you get to the pros, and you expect these guys to be finished products, and they're not. You know, they're not finished products. They need some reps. These guys could benefit from playing in like the UFL and getting some live reps under fire where they're getting an opportunity to play position, read defenses, understand the speed of the game. The speed of the game may not be as fast at that level, but it's going to be faster than what they played in the college level. And, you know, and even if it's not faster or as fast, they're getting live reps. They need more games. And it's unfortunate. I mean, and we were talking about all these quarterbacks are getting ready to move around. A lot of these guys were high draft picks. Anthony Richardson's was a number 4 pick, 4th overall pick. Kyler Murray was the 1st overall pick. First round.
Internet. What is it near the end of the show? Okay. Go ahead, Tanny. Continue until we get him back.
So as I was saying, the World Baseball Classic starts on the March 15th. I would suggest that all of you watch. I think there's some really cool competition going to be had. And just so everybody knows, besides the USA team, the top 2 teams that finish will actually qualify for the Olympics in 2028 in LA. So Team USA automatically gets in because they're a host city for the Olympics. But so enjoy some football or some baseball while we're waiting for combine to be done and pro days. So there's going to be a lot of pro days too coming up. Check out the pro days.
Okay. All right, Mel, you want to try to finish what you're doing there? I think you're on the right track.
No, I think my internet keeps going on the fritz, man. I'm not going to chance it anymore, man. I think you got the gist of it. You know, I just think that these guys need more live reps, and these teams are giving up on them too soon.
Yeah, you know, the United Football League, like you alluded to, is a good place. I'll make mine short. I'll make my parting shot short and sweet. Once upon a time, the Miami people said tank for Tua. Bad move. I think he's been a bust at this point. But just think, you could have had Justin Herbert. And how are the Chargers feeling? Pretty good. You got Justin Herbert. You got Jim Harbaugh. That does it for this edition of Inside the Fiction. With that said, Al, why don't you go ahead, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Yeah, catch me on all social media at Melfar Jr. Follow what we have going on in the youth here in Georgia and Michigan at melfarsuperstarfoundation.org.
And you can also see Melfar Jr. here on Inside the Pigskin every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. And of course, I get the luxury of Tommy tomorrow night. But Tommy, let everybody know once again how they can reach you.
TomShanahan.report is my website. Buy my books. I got a daughter in college to help me pay the tuition. Also look at the story about the documentary. We need investors. It'll be the first time the true story of college football integration has been told.
You look for Tommy and I and Candy tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's edition of the Sports Exchange. We're going to have a good show tomorrow night as well. All right. Candy, go ahead and take us the rest of the way.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. Talks about his 40-plus years in the media industry, and how it has evolved and changed. Old school media versus new school media. It's a good guide for anybody that's looking to get into the business. You can buy it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The audio version is also out. There's a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a plethora of great content, so go check it out. Tom writes for us. He sends us stuff. Go check out the website. Scott writes for us. We talked about James Brockmeyer from Miami. Scott wrote a little piece on him. It's on the website. Go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas or want to advertise or sponsor a show, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Last but not least, there is a red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner. That means you have not yet subscribed to us. Please do so and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our great programming. One last programming thing. You can also find me on 3 Chicks in a Pod / Chicks and Salsa, which is Girls Talking Sports. We do it every Tuesday night, 7:30 p.m. So if you missed tonight, go back and go to our YouTube channel and watch it.
Great stuff. Great show. Enjoyed the camaraderie amongst the four of us. Mel and Tom, you guys are fantastic together working on your own. Candy and I just enjoyed watching you guys interact. Doubleheader tomorrow beginning at 8 o'clock. We'll have 2 shows. So stay tuned with us and we'll proceed from there. So on behalf of Candy, Mel, and Tommy, my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Thanking you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We appreciate everybody in the chat room who made their contributions tonight. And Earl Kinsey, you're a superstar anyway, so that is what it is. Much love back at you and everybody else that participated as well. Good night, everybody. Tomorrow night, doubleheader beginning at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. God bless. Have a great rest of the night. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We had a lot of information and hope that everybody learned at least something. Good night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow night at 8. Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Good night.